tonight's meeting is going to be run slightly differently because we are starting with the public hearing on the revisions and comments to the district's code of conduct. By law, the code of conduct needs to be reviewed annually and if updated if necessary. The 2018 highlighted updates of the code of conduct include the incorporation of the Dignity for All Students Act, as well as reflecting modern updates with regards to cyberbullying and the inclusion of off-campus electronic misconduct. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes, and the only permitted topic is the proposed revisions of the Code of Conduct. If you would like to speak with regards to any other issues, we will be having public input during the regular meeting. If you would like to speak, just come to the podium, and we just request that you leave your name and address with the district clerk. So at this point, are there any members of the public here who want to address comments, concerns with the draft of the Code of Conduct?
Yeah. I haven't read them all yet, but.
Do I come over here? Yep. To the podium?
Susan Kinsella. I just want to say that I'd be really concerned about how you're going to look at, I think the way it's written, to look at outside of school activities. I mean, I understand cyberbullying. You could probably tell if somebody is bullying a kid, but your language is very general. And I think once you go outside of something more specific, it could be very precarious that you're including outside of school activities. That's it.
Thank you. I will just say that the language pertaining to those issues was expressly drafted by attorneys, but we will bring that issue to them as well before we have the resolution on the agenda. Are there any other members of the public who would like to address the proposed changes to the Code of Conduct? Going once? Okay, well then, at this point I will close the hearing and we will take those comments into consideration and continue to work on the Code of Conduct and hopefully have it approved and passed by resolution in the December meeting. Okay, so can I get a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Do we?
We got a vote?
Susan L. and Susan Schaefer, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm not seeing it come up.
Yeah, maybe not.
There it is.
Okay, you have unanimous.
Okay, and I would also like to present this month's student representative. Could you state your name to the public?
Kelly Kinsella.
Hi, Kelly. Glad you're back again. As you know, feel free to input with questions, and we follow Robert's rules. That's about it. At this point, would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So now we'll move to the general public input. Are there any members of the public who would like to address other issues aside from the code of conduct? There are none. All right, I just want to make the announcement that due to a personal health issue, our superintendent, Katie Graves, will be out of the office until Tuesday, November 13th. Until then, all matters involving the superintendent's office will be handled by Mr. Jeff Nichols, who is the Pearson High School principal. Additionally, with regard to policies moving forward, the Code of Ethics has been sent to board members to review as well as union representatives. However, because the unions rarely meet and it's usually only once a month, we're probably not going to have their comments until either the December 3rd or 17th meeting. So hopefully we can have all our comments in before then and then move forward with the stakeholders and union representatives' comments. Okay, moving into the superintendent's report. Our first issue is legislator Bridget Fleming is presenting, although I'm sorry, Bridget's not here. And Bridget's replace, I'm so sorry, who do we have? Cheryl Razi will be presenting a proclamation to Rachel McKelvey for earning a gold award in the Suffolk County Legislature's Distinguished Youth Award programs.
Okay. Legislator Fleming also is sick, very sick, or she would have been here. She was very upset to not be able to present Rachel because she admires Rachel very much for all the work that she did for the Suffolk County Legislature's Distinguished Youth Award. And Rachel didn't just start with bronze or go to silver. She went right for gold, and it's a lot of work. There's a lot of hours. I'm not going to read the whole thing. There's successfully completed over 200 hours of community service. In addition, 100 hours of personal development and 100 hours of physical fitness, and visited over 15 Suffolk County parks to earn the Gold Award. It's a very prestigious award in Suffolk County, and it was just approved May of 2017, and it focuses on the volunteer service, personal development, exploration, and physical fitness. The goal of this award is to encourage positive youth development and to recognize young people between 13 and 18 years of age on becoming well-rounded and more civically engaged individuals. And Rachel did a fabulous job. And one of the best things, and I went over a lot of this stuff with Rachel when she brought it in for Legislator Fleming, and one of the things that struck me the most was when you said on the physical fitness part that you're not really into physical activity, but you got a new dog, and walking the dog made it worthwhile.
It did. I actually ended up getting into it.
Yeah.
It was kind of nice.
So this is a proclamation for you, explaining the whole award, and that you accomplished it. You did a wonderful job. Very happy. I'm very proud of you.
I'd like to say I learned a lot from this award, but most importantly I learned that through helping people who had developmental disabilities, through helping people through programs that help those considering suicide, people with mental health issues, I realized, and even through helping the LGBT Center, I realized that, you know, nobody's special because they're going through something or because they identify as something else or they've had some sort of special diagnosis. And neither are the people, you know, who are like, oh, I helped someone, or oh, I care so much about this, I'm special. No. The only thing that's special really is helping all people, you know, but unbiased, and not just to prove something to yourself or to somebody else, but purely because you want to make somebody else's life better out of humane love. So That's what I think we should see more in the school, eventually, yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
January. Parents?
Oh, no.
One, two, three. One, two, and three.
Another one.
Thank you. Want one more?
Nope.
Two younger brothers.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 5.2, the auditor presentation. We have Mr. Peter Rodriguez of Cullen and Danowski to provide us with the audit report for the 2017 closing.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Pete Rodriguez. I'm from the audit firm of Cullen and Danowski. We've been hired by the Board of Education to audit the financial statements. So that process starts back in June or so and just finishes up probably a couple of weeks ago. Again, the object of the objective is for us to express an opinion on your financial statements. Okay, the readers of the financial statement want to know what work we've done and what we feel, how we feel the financial statements are put together, and if you can rely on the numbers that are in these financial statements. So an audit is starts off with understanding the district's controls, understanding the procedures that they have in place, helping us design our audit program. Okay, but the bottom line is we need to, to gather enough evidence that supports the numbers that you have on your financial statements and your disclosures to render an opinion. Okay, it starts out at really working with the business office and working with the books, auditing the numbers in your general fund, school lunch, special ed, and capital fund, looking for support for the numbers. Your biggest expense is payroll. What we do there is we select, a sample of employees. We trace their salaries back to the contracts. We trace their hours worked back to timesheets, approved timesheets, things of that nature. Make sure they're being paid appropriately. That gives us evidence that the payroll is working properly and that the payroll expense is fairly stated. We look at payments to vendors. Vendors, what we're looking at as the backup that you find for payment to a vendor would be an approved purchase order, an invoice, very importantly, a receiving documentation showing that the goods and services were received by the school district, a canceled check that's made out to the vendor for the proper amounts. So these are all the types of support that we need. We have to look at a bunch of things. We look at revenues and expenses. Revenues were pretty easy at a school district. Property taxes and state aid can all be confirmed. Look at assets and liabilities. The biggest asset is obviously cash. Cash, we go through the bank statements, we reconcile all the bank accounts, make sure that cash is fairly stated and is in the accounts and belongs to the district. Your liabilities are basically your accounts payable. Those we're looking to make sure that the expense, that the payable is recorded in the proper period, that these bills that are being shown as accounts payable belong to the 17-18 school year, not the 18-19, that everything's recorded in the proper period. So we go through this process. It takes, a lot of hours to do this, and then we come to the conclusion that we have enough evidence, we can issue our opinion. Okay, so the opinion that we issued for the Sag Harbor School District is what's known as an unmodified opinion. The unmodified opinion is the highest level of opinion you can receive. It means that the numbers are fairly stated, they're free of material misstatements, and that the statements themselves are prepared in accordance with John Stubbs accounting principles. So when the reader looks at that, they can then rely on the numbers, and they can then do their own evaluation onto your financial health and condition, but they can rely on the numbers. It also in this report is a report on the government auditing standards, where we have to report on internal controls over financial reporting. We go through this process to help us design our audit program. If we find something that we feel is a material weakness, we would note it in that report. Also, if we found any instances of non-compliance, we would note that. We didn't find any material weaknesses or non-compliance in this audit. So that's a clean opinion on that also. So the reporting was fine. We've issued a management letter to the school district, to management and the Board of Education, so they can go through and they can make some recommendations on improvements that can take place. that'll be worked on, I'm sure, after the, soon enough by the business officials. And that's all I have to report. Any questions?
Would any members like to ask some questions? We did just come from the audit committee meeting, so I think 3 members' questions have been answered. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Okay, next up we have an electronic communications. Oh, you do have that.
It's not the same word.
I see it.
Thank you.
So, previously we had submitted questions to the IBI group in anticipation of tonight's conversation. So I'm gonna request that board members limit their questions to issues regarding follow-up. And also I'm gonna ask IBI to, well, they actually did give us a report. So I do not need to ask them to do that. Sorry. Oh, I thought it was visual.
No.
Oh, okay, good.
But you said you didn't need to ask them quickly, you were saying you don't need to talk to them tonight with me. Sorry.
Hey, it's Scott Fisher here, how are you?
Good, Josh. Bill Tance here with me. Hey, Scott.
Hey, guys, so you're in the board meetings live, and your part in the agenda is up now.
Hi, Bill. I want to apologize because it was the board's understanding that we were not getting any sort of report. So we just actually received this report. It was our understanding that there were going to be questions that we submitted in advance that you were going to answer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you see, at the top of each one of those pages is the question. These are just responses to the questions.
I
and
see.
An update for you guys.
So it's just answering the questions that were posed.
Okay. So let's, can we go over the first slide? Question.
Sure.
Would you like to read it, or?
Yeah, sure. We can jump in, and I'll just do, I know you have a busy agenda tonight, so I can just do a quick overview. So the question was interested in the updated timeline with milestones and certain dependencies. So as you can see here, our timeline as modified now, our SED review, we currently now have engineering comments, which is good. Our design team is working on responding to those and should have those back to our reviewers within the next few days. So what we're anticipating is that this review will be tied up before the end of the month. And in fact, what we anticipate is much sooner than that. However, we've already been proven wrong by SED a couple times here, so we just want to be conservative. But we will have the responses back for the engineers who are reviewing the project this week. So based on that time, because that is the critical milestone for us, is getting that approval for the project from SED. We can begin the bidding process at the end of this month, as we were saying, and based on the size of the project and based on the location, as we know, in Sag Harbor, we do suggest the bid period that you see there, so that we have enough time for bidders to accurately take off the project and be interested and be notified of the project happening. So that means we are anticipating a bid opening on December 18th, that we feel that that is ample time for the bidders to produce their bids. Then, as you see there, construction will be December through May. One of the things that I wanted to just touch on here briefly is the construction period. We are showing an increase in that construction period as far as the month. The reason being, however, though, is because we are looking at the actual site work construction where we need the weather to get back into fair weather in the month of May and also in April. We'll need that for that construction site work to be completed. We still anticipate, if you totaled up the number of hours working in the project, it still would be about 4 months of construction time, but now it's just going to be spread out a bit due to the winter months. We do anticipate that inside the building, we will have construction taking place through the winter. And one of the things that is not posted here is we are also looking at alternative avenues for getting some of the roofing work done, such as cooperative purchase or state contract. This would allow us to advance the work for the roofing almost immediately once we receive SED approval. Then after construction, we anticipate we'll have all of our punch list reviews completed in the month of June. And that would allow the district to take the entire summer to prepare, get everything ready, do all of their moves, so that they'll be prepared in first of fall to move in.
Okay, do any members have any questions, any follow-ups with regards to question 1? Alex?
I just had a question where we are on the permitting process. What, is there a
That's the SED process. The way that this works for municipal school work is that once we receive SED approval, they are the permitting granting authority. So they actually, that approval is basically means that we will be receiving the building permit from them.
So you don't need anything from the Village of Sag Harbor? No. From the county health department?
One couple of things here. We do have our approval of the water service. We've got formal approval from Suffolk County Water Authority. That was a week and a half ago. We've talked to our utility, our gas utility company. They're aware of the project. We actually submitted the application for the gas supply a year ago. I was on the phone with John Merrill from National Grid last week. So he's on board with the fact that we're looking for that gas service. And right now we're just waiting for the electric utility for that aspect of it. So those specific items are in the works and are, to our knowledge, are ready to go.
Great.
Any other members? Follow-up questions? Bill, I just had a quick question about the bidding process. So the bidding starts on November 26th, and I know it says opening, but you mean like it ends on December 18th in layman's
Yes,
terms?
correct.
Okay.
What the opening refers to is that's the deadline for the bidders to submit their bids, at which time we would actually publicly open the bid per state requirement and review all of the bids. And then once we do that, we take the low bidders and the second to low, and we vet them to make sure that there's nothing that's been missed in their bid production, and to make sure that there's no mathematical errors or no problems with their bid. At that point, we would make a recommendation to you, to the board, as to the contractors that we're recommending for the award of contract. And then at that point, there would be a board meeting to proceed with that recommendation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Moving on to the next question.
That's,
Oh, sorry.
that's 2019, not 18.
Yes.
Construction through May 2019.
The last 3 months.
Oh, yeah, excuse
That's
me.
right.
There is an error in the date on those 3 bullets. That should be 2019. That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the second question. Would you like to address it, Bill?
Sure. The second question was to highlight any recommended or anticipated changes to the project. One of the things that we've been very fortunate is that we've been able to maintain the scope as we've reviewed with the board, and no changes have been made up until this point, with the exception of the roof system. And this is actually a benefit that we saw by moving to the cooperative purchase process. We are allowed to actually consult with a contractor from Long Island and it's Garland is the company currently being looked at. They're allowed to produce a quote, cooperative purchase procedures per New York State law. One of the things that we found out is we were being conservative in our estimate of the work, and they came back and said that we could actually fit into our budget an upgrade in the roofing system from an EPDM membrane system to a modified bitumen system, which we thought would be financially prohibitive to go with that system. Since they are able to do it, and especially too, one of the things that we've consulted with them on is the timing for us right now is actually in a very aggressive bid climate for contractors because most of the summer work has been completed, so they're looking for new work. And so going out for the roofing work, they were able to be very aggressive in putting their numbers together. So they could actually provide us with the upgraded roofing system at the budget that we had for the EPDM system. We are recommending to the district to proceed with this at this time. We don't feel that it's overkill. It's actually belt and suspenders. It will actually increase the longevity of the roofing system, and it will actually have a more durable surface, wear surface for the roof.
Thank you. Any questions with regards to this issue?
Yeah, just can they give us an explanation of what is modified bitumen? I've never heard of that.
Did you hear that question?
Yes, yes.
I guess, well, as we look back, and I'm kind of old, so I'm back in the old, what we call the BUR, or built-up roof system. It's, in my opinion now, it's the newer technology of an actual built-up roof system. Actually, the membranes are still a modified bitumen, which means, okay, it's still made out of the true old-style, long-lasting, petroleum-based product. And it's actually an aggregate surface product, just like the old-style multiple layers of roofing system. It is torch applied, and that gives us a positive means of adherence, not only between the plies, but at the edges. So as we progress with the scheduling and how we're going to work the whole system, including the new work, the modified bitumen is probably one of the best ways of being able to modify the roof at a later date should something happen and we need to make a change. So it is a much more long-lasting system to be able to be used, and I think we're in a benefit of a dollar benefit being able to use it for this system in lieu of the typical EPDM, which is in layman's terms a rubber roof.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions with regards to this issue? Okay, moving on to the fourth question. Could you address that one, please?
Sure.
Okay,
So the question was to actually take a look at the budget, especially as far as what was allocated for referendum versus what we feel are the amount of money needed to complete the project at this point. So one of the things I thought would be a good idea is to address the question at first, what is our bonded capital project? And as we've kind of talked about this in previous meetings with respect to this, that the actual budgeted construction contracts, which what that means is what the referendum passed was the $5,501,844. Currently in our construction estimates, we are estimating that we are just slightly above that at $5,518,919. This is the same number that was presented the last time when we did a full detailed estimate presentation to the board. In addition, one of the things to be aware of, that this would be our actual bid project. This is what we're bidding in public bid to the contractors and bonding for in accordance with that referendum. Now, as part of that, at that number, it leaves us $1,382,886 in excess in the referendum still to cover all of our soft costs and our contingency costs. And that sets that number at 25%, which actually is really what our target wants to be, because that is the maximum aidable amount of money that we can have for those soft costs.
So I think that it actually puts us in a really good place right now, as far as the capital project budget. In addition to that, as we had discussed with the board a while back, there was a surplus in the current general fund, or I should say last year's general fund, that was utilized for different items at the Stella Maris building. And that's what you see in the second part of this slide, the general fund outlay or direct procurement vendors. These 4 items are actually items that utilize surplus money to set up vendors to provide particular services to the building. So as you see, the very first thing there that actually is completed at this point was the asbestos abatement for the building, and that was $93,072.75. That was J.C. Broderick was the vendor that the district utilized for that. The next item that's being set up for the vendor is with Renew, which is a vendor that all of these vendors the district has used before and has had very good rapport with and has very good results with. So we've gone back and gone to these vendors directly. So for general demolition and construction, Renew has provided a quote for $535,000. And this is primarily the GC portion of a lot of the interior fit-up. The next item is interior flooring. Milburn is the company, and that's $317,000, $138.09. And then the last item is playground equipment, which is American Recreational at $53,880.72. Now the total amount for this, as you see here, the $999,091.56, is the total of all those 4 contracts added together that were out of that general fund. We originally estimated this and budgeted this at slightly less than that, the $963,044. But fortunately, the funds were available, and in addition, we see the increase based on the fact that, especially with some of the items like flooring and some of the abatement, there was some additional scope that was added to really get the project to the point that we wanted it to. So there was some additional abatement that was found, and then also on the flooring side, there was some products that were not available at the time we did the estimate that have become available, and we think would make a perfect product for the interior flooring.
Does anyone have any questions with regards to the slide? I have a question. So in the capital project, we have 5.5 for the contracts and the estimates, and we have some padding of 1.3. I guess my question is there some concern that the bids will come in much higher than you would expect?
No, in fact, those estimates are based off of, we were first conservative with our numbers, but in addition to that, and I believe actually that's on the next slide of the question as well.
Yes, it was just pointed out to me.
Yeah, yeah. So would we like to jump over to that slide?
Do any members have questions on the last slide? Okay, we're ready to move on.
Okay, so that leads right into our next question of, has the delay in the project had an effect on cost? And the very fortunate thing is that we've seen zero increase in inflation for materials and labor for the contractors. It's really been a flat rate now going on a number of years. And so one of the things that we see is not only do we have no real increase based on the extended time, but in addition to that, we're now bidding in a much more aggressive climate. Before, our bid period where we are estimating these numbers was actually right almost in the middle of summer, which we were concerned that at that point contractors would already be busy and we may get higher costs. Now we're actually optimistic because we're in a much more aggressive bid climate. So we feel not only do we not think there will be an increase, but we may see some savings there.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a question that might be for Phil, I'm not sure. So if we used a surplus for this basically $1 million for the work that's been done so far, right? Is that then monies that we dedicated over and above, or are we supposed to pay back those monies into the fund from the bond that the community paid for?
So the money that Bill and Ed are referring to, these funds, this was money that we did not spend in the 2017-18 budget. And it was money that was allocated in the budget, but due to cost containment, we were able to capture savings. So then we took that money and we allocated and put it towards front loading these items. In other words, these items that Bill listed on that slide were things we were able to get done now while we wait for the permit. So that's how we did that.
So then should we expect a savings then of $1 million when we go to spend the budget portion of this bond?
No, I think that what you have, I mean, we'll have to see it, wait and see. But we keep intact what was budgeted. It's just that I had this extra money, so we were able to get these projects started now.
Right, I understand that, but
Yeah.
if we already spent $1 million.
I think I can answer that question forgive me for interjecting, but I think if you recall in our last presentation where we did the detailed estimate for the project, we did estimate that to actually complete the project according to the district's wishes and the board and the taxpayers, that there was the original approximately 5.5 that would be the bonded piece. But there was, in addition to that, about 1.4 million that was required to really complete the vision of what the district was interested in for the center. So, in that, if you'll recall that, this is basically almost $1 million of that additional 1.4 that we now have covered.
And that does not come out of the contingency of 1.3, the 25%.
Correct. Because it was from surplus.
Right.
Okay, but when you say to complete vision, so the bottom line is it's looking like we're gonna be spending 1.4 million more than what we had initially anticipated for the project overall to rehab the building for the use that the district is looking for.
Correct. That is correct.
Thank you.
But we already have that money according to the bond, correct?
Yes. Yeah, actually, we reported
That's the
that
contingency.
actually quite a while ago, and that's what led into the planning of that, so that it would transpire that way. So the 1.4 is what is out of general fund, and the bonded amount is the 5.5 plus that 1.3, the 1.3, yes. Or almost 1.4.
Okay, so technically we're not over budget.
We are over budget.
No, we're not, because we have the
We are over
contingency.
budget.
No, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm the newest member of the board, so I wasn't here when we approved whatever amounts we're actually spending on Stella Maris, but what I think you're saying is that the total project costs, let's say 7 million, if we're taking 5.5 plus 1.7 or something, and the board at some point approved that total, and that we then asked, but of that 7 million, 1.4 came from a fund that was already in place, and we asked the taxpayers for a bond for a different amount. But I don't think he's saying that it's costing $1.4 million more.
No,
than
there was
anyone
never a
anticipated.
separate bond on Stella Maris. There was only one bond, which was $10 million, which was covering the purchase price of the building, which was about 3.2, and the balance was the construction to renovate the building, plus the soft costs of paying the architects and so forth. And what this page is showing us, not this page but the prior one, is that we then had a surplus in our general fund of $1 million, which we used to do work already toward it. That was not from the bond monies, it was from the general fund monies. So we've already paid out $1 million to do work in the building, which is fine, but then one would expect then we're paying less in the bond for that work because we fronted $1 million.
Well, we don't know
But he just
what.
said it's 1.4 more to complete the vision. You're saying that's the contingency. You always have a contingency in a construction thing, because there can be all kinds of things that you don't expect.
Right,
What
so-
have you?
Yes, and soft costs. Yes, that is correct, because if you recall in a previous board meeting, we did present that in order to complete the vision of bringing the educational center online, and in addition to that, getting some of the community aspect items of the building online, the total cost conservatively was estimated at 8.3. That was the number.
And that's more
And so
than what was
that's-
initially
that's what
budgeted
you're
that we
seeing
went
here.
out to the bond with by $1
So
million.
what I'm saying is that of that additional
We're over by $1 million
above
already.
and beyond the 6.9, that's seen as the bonded capital project, $1 million has already been allocated approximately to that out of surplus fund.
Correct, and there's a possibility that we may not even need to use the contingency. A rare possibility, but that is a possibility, correct?
Right, and also too, there's a very good possibility that the 5.5 may be lower too, depending on what happens when we actually bid the project.
Right, so we won't know until we know how much of the contingency we use.
And the bid, and the actual bid contracts are awarded.
Right.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any more questions?
One more.
Diana?
No. We just have one more question, one more page.
So, we did have one more question in our presentation, and that's with regards to will there be, what will the cost be for the operation of the building as far as heat, electricity, custodial, security? And really, these items, I believe are in references or additional costs that the district needs to plan for above and beyond. And really, as you see here, that's written, the facility is actually going to be under construction. So, what will happen is that there is no custodial or security required. They're required to secure the building themselves and keep the building clean and clean work sites all through the construction process. In addition, we'll have our construction manager there on site, so that will be the security during the day, and then it will be completely locked up and shut down at night. As far as heat and electricity, there's actually no additional heat requirement other than to keep the building from freezing, and also to just the basic operation of the heating system, which is what is now currently what the district is doing. So there's actually no additional cost utility-wise other than what the district is paying right now, just by having the building with its basic heat operation in place.
Okay, does anybody have any questions about this? Okay, if there's no further questions, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for the time this evening.
Okay, have a good night.
You too.
Okay, we are gonna move into the principal's report. Mr. Nichols or Mr. Malone?
I don't think we had one.
Just the school
A
lunch.
school lunch survey?
Yeah, that was it. Mr. Malone?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Just to give a little bit of a background for anyone in the audience or the public, at the elementary school here in Sag Harbor, we do not have a cafeteria. So for years, students have brought their lunch with them. In recent years, there's been some discussion about trying to find ways to provide some lunch options for families, and specifically, we realize that there's a need to provide a service to families who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. That's taken care of here at Pearson for the middle school and high school students because of the cafeteria. At the elementary school, while we never have a child that goes unfed, it's a little bit of a a little bit of a struggle. We get support from the PTA, and even staff members help out with that as needed, as do other parents. So in the recent years, we've had discussions with the cafeteria staff about the possibility of providing a healthy lunch option, a boxed lunch that could be brought to the elementary school. Thanks to the business office and Ms. Brandt and her staff in the food service department, they've worked out some planning and have come up with the possibility of providing lunch 3 days a week at the elementary school, and albeit still in the planning stages, it looks like it's something possibly in the new year we'll be able to venture into. An affordable, healthy option of a sandwich, something they're calling like a Lunchable, a healthy Lunchable, not the packaged ones you see at the store. A beverage and some sides for about just under $4 as an option. And I think it would run 3 days a week. The one issue that we're still discussing in the planning stages is how many actual lunches could be provided on a daily basis based on the current staffing and the space that's available in the Pearson cafeteria. And that number seems to be right around 100, that the current configurations could support 100 lunches being brought down to the elementary school. In order to gauge the feelings of the elementary families, whether or not they participate, we're going to send out a very brief survey just to gauge interest and see, is that about where we're at? Would 100 lunches work, or is the desire way higher than that? And if so, we'd probably have to go back to the planning stages and talk a little bit more. So Mr. Fisher helped put together a survey. We're going to send that out in the next week or two, and get those results, gauge the interest of the elementary families, and then I can report back on that.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for the school lunch program?
Is the plan for it to be 3 days other than Tuesday?
Correct. Exactly. We are not going to touch
Very
Pizza
excited
Tuesday.
to not have to make lunch 4 days.
No, there's
Can we
certain
just let them start
institutions
on
that we
Friday?
don't mess with.
I just have 2 quick questions.
Yes.
What's been the thinking of what those lunches, how they would be packaged? And when you say a box lunch, so what kind of containers?
I think he said like a Lunchable.
Right, I know that's what he said. I want to know exactly what
Yeah,
we're talking about. What are the options in terms of packaging?
It's like basically like a cardboard container that
Paper
can be
box.
brought over in temperature type containers that keep the items cold, and we can easily stack them and hand them to the classes. You know,
I mean, I
assuming
think-
5 or 6 students in each class orders, it'd be easy to transfer them in.
I think your question is about plastic.
Yep, plastic and waste.
Okay.
Oh,
So
that-
I'm just curious
Right,
about both of those
it's a good question. I can get back to you on that. I don't know the exact answer on the packaging.
And then
Actually,
you-
I can answer that
Okay.
if you don't mind, Matt, because we had researched this and got it approved with the Suffolk County Health Department. So it's a recyclable cardboard fold-up rectangular container, and made out of all recyclable materials. The sandwiches are wrapped also in a recyclable wax paper. They get a sandwich, they get an apple, they get a fruit drink, orange juice or milk or chocolate milk, and a small salad, and mention the fruit, they get a piece of fruit. That's what is contained in the box lunch. And that's the material that will be used.
Thank you.
Chocolate milk?
Low fat.
No, it's not the fat that's the issue. The kids actually need fat for brain development. It's sugar that's the issue. But anyway, I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Well, maybe in the survey, we can see what the interests are.
On certain options, sure.
There's already a milk program for people who want plain milk.
And there is chocolate milk, right? No, you can only get plain milk.
Right.
Okay. Okay, moving on to, this item was not on the agenda. I believe there was a question for Mr. Fisher regarding Apple Watches.
Oh, yep, yeah, sure. Back in the middle of the summer, we purchased two to address specific needs we were having with communication and notification issues. We've been using them since the middle of the summer, and they've helped us greatly in that the staff, if the phones aren't present, are still getting notifications about, in our particular case, requests that are coming in, so that they can be notified more quickly, because oftentimes we were finding that either between the technology in the building, the physical notification wasn't coming through properly to the other devices, and also just the fact that it's an always-on device, it's an always-with-you device. So that's improved our ability to respond effectively to some of the tech needs that we've got in the building.
You said the quantity was 2?
There was 2 over the summer,
Okay.
and then last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, a third one was brought into service but hasn't been fully implemented yet. But it also gives us direct access to the help desk system on the wrist. So it's really, it's been a real help for us, and it's been a big improvement over some of the other things we've tried, whether it be tablets and so forth. This one seems to be the one that is helping us to be the most efficient and effective.
Great, thank you for answering that question. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.8?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Diana?
Yes.
Sorry, she's not showing up for me. I'll have to call in by you. Who seconded?
I did.
Okay, this is a vote to approve all items?
Mm-hmm. That's a consent agenda, from 1 to 12.
But she said 8.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You said 8.
Right.
Oh,
January said a motion for items 1 through 8, and that's what.
is that what you want?
Yes.
So you want me to pull out 9, 10, 11, and 12?
Just 9.
Okay. Can we talk about that? Huh? Can we talk about? No. Just give me a minute.
While we wait to take the vote on the consent agenda, I just want to say I was at the Celebration of Life event for Debbie Price this evening, and it was very crowded. And it looked like a very positive event, and on behalf of the board, I thanked her and her family for her dedication and her long-term commitment to our students. I know my daughter had her and her daughter, so we definitely lost a great one.
Okay, it's not updating it automatically, so we'll just have to do it by hand. So 7 through 8.
Yes, so we
So
have a
Diana
first
motioned.
motion and a second.
Mhm.
All those in favor of approving items 7.1 through 7.8, please show of hands. All those opposed? And one not here.
Okay, unanimous.
Okay, can I get a motion to enter executive session to discuss the superintendent's contract?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
You want-
Can-
I'm sorry.
Can we finish
Do you
the
wanna finish
7
the-
through 12?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, I thought you said to do it in the middle.
Maybe we're not up to that on the agenda.
I don't have hers 8.
I have her,
I don't have her on the consent agenda.
I think you're looking at the wrong agenda.
I don't
So-
see her on the consent agenda.
So she's not under that,
I have her as 7.9.
no, it's 8 on your.
No,
7.9 is the
7.9
winter
is winter
coaches.
coaches.
Winter
That's the one we
coaches.
just,
Why do I have a wrong agenda?
I think that's the old one.
Oh, is that what you were trying to pull out?
I think that's what she was
Sorry,
trying to pull out. I was
Sorry.
confused too.
So I need to close out and reopen?
Why don't we just do it by hand? You can just, we've moved, approve Catherine
I thought
Barber
you
Graves'
moved it already.
contract
I
extension.
did, but
It's
not on mine. It
Oh,
didn't show
it was
it.
not in mine. It's not in mine. Is
On
it
mine,
in
it's still
yours?
there.
It should be listed under action items.
It is for all of us except for January.
Okay, so do you wanna just move forward?
You mean it's
Yes.
on
Verbally?
yours?
Yeah,
Sure.
no,
In
we can
section-
share it.
It's section 8.3.
Well, we need to finish the rest of the consent agenda.
So
Oh, yeah,
then-
so, but why aren't we doing the consent agenda then?
Because I
Hers
think-
is in the consent agenda.
Okay,
Right,
I'm
that's-
sorry, I apologize. Now I have a different agenda. So I'm going to go back, I apologize, you can do this electronically. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.11?
12.
We have 12.
I got 11.
She can't vote on that one.
Well, you can't vote on that one.
I'll take yours manually and I can put it in.
Yeah.
Why is it just, alright, whatever, okay.
So you wanna do 7.1 to 7.12?
Yes,
You can also follow the one up there,
I will
because that
follow.
one's accurate.
I can't see it all.
So moved.
Second?
Third time's a charm.
Okay, hold on. So I have Diana and Susan L.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, enter your votes.
Okay, it's unanimous, I'm gonna close.
I just wanna make sure my agenda matches up with this one.
So what you have in action items are accept audit report.
See, you only have 3, I have 4. Sorry. Okay, item
8.1.
8.1, can I get a motion to accept the audit report?
So moved?
Second.
The recommendation of the superintendent is, not to approve the audit report tonight because she has not had the opportunity to, fully review it.
I'd like to make a motion to table the acceptance of the audit report till the next business meeting.
You wanna postpone to December 3rd?
Yes.
Okay, just so we all know, if we postpone to the next meeting, the audit report will be filed late. Is that correct, Phil?
That is absolutely correct.
And what are the penalties from the state for filing late?
We will receive a letter of reprimand from OSC and probably SCD.
Is there a second to Diana's motion
To table?
to table?
I guess,
Do we-
can we ask, like, can we discuss it first, like why we're tabling and?
I'll second so we can discuss it.
You have to second first before you can discuss.
On the recommendation of the superintendent, she has not seen the audit report. She has not been able to discuss the audit report with the auditors. It would be accepted without her knowledge and approval of the audit report. So her recommendation was to table it to the following meeting. I just wanted to make sure that we all understand that if we table it to the following meeting, we will in fact be filing it late.
And what are the consequences of filing it, like, just a letter, and what is that letter?
Dr. Phil had, it's a letter from the state claiming that, you're late, you need to file.
That's correct.
Are there any sort of, effects with regard to our, state aid?
No, won't affect state aid, but I do need to advise the board that it could possibly be kicked over to the audit division.
Could
and-
you explain what that means?
It could possibly, not definitely, possibly, create a scenario where they may ask the audit division to schedule an audit with the district, where New York State could possibly send an audit team down.
Is there an alternative? Can you file and then amend your file? Or once you file, it's locked in and you can't add anything to it?
Once it's filed, it's filed.
It's set.
That's correct.
Do you feel, I mean, you've been close to this, what's your confidence level that if it was filed today, it would be accurately reflective of the state of the district?
That question places me in a precarious position, because, yes, I was in with the audit committee. I think that the audit committee should weigh in on that, as well as our auditor with myself. But as Superintendent Graves clearly explained, she's not been privy to the document, she's not seen it yet. And a document of that magnitude should indeed be reviewed by the superintendent.
Alex?
Is there any procedure to request an extension?
Due to extenuating circumstances that she's,
I don't know the answer to that, because I've never experienced that before.
Well, also,
We've
the
always
deadline
filed
is
timely.
November 14th.
Yeah.
So
We could
we
call a special
could
meeting
call a
to-
special
to
meeting.
approve it.
I'm not here next week, I think I let you know that. All we need is 4.
Yeah, just need a quorum.
I'm around.
The document is filed electronically, and so we could file it as late as the absolute due date.
So the day of the 14th is what you're saying.
That's correct.
I was working and was unable to attend the audit committee, so I'd be interested in hearing from those who were at the audit committee meeting, what their thoughts or recommendations might be for those of us who couldn't attend that meeting.
Do you want to go first, Susan, since you're the committee chair?
I mean, sure. The findings that were found were, it was a different auditor that came in this year. And so there's different eyes, new eyes. I think that there are definitely things that we need to work on. You know, we discussed, you know, what was important, what was our main priorities. You know, there's certain things, the lack of segregation of duties, and you know, the segregation of duties, I think, was the biggest thing that we need to work on there, as far as within certain departments, things like that. Okay? He did remove one. You know, there was a few things that were backlogged from that had to do with filing certain documents. I think that it's all fixable. And what he had said was that, you know, he looked at our previous audit before he had left, and it was longer than this one was. So, as far as all that was in there, I feel that because it was a new person with new eyes, I think it's acceptable. So, that's the way I feel. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there was one minor typo. There was a transposition of numbers on one page that they were gonna fix. So I don't know what the process would be in terms of accepting the audit report until we see that fixed, but that was a pretty minor error. But in general, there was nothing extraordinary. I mean, and the management letter says there's no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, so I think if we can find a way to accept the audit report before the deadline, that would be ideal.
Acceptable.
There's,
was-
I
there
just
was-
wanna,
I was at
there's
the
another
meeting also.
member of the audit committee,
Yeah.
in the audience. Can we get, Ms. Kinsella?
If you're asking me if I think the report is an accurate reflection, I'd have to say with my limited exposure inside the district, I would say yes. You know, there's a couple of issues that we thought were significant, not significant in that it's misrepresentative of the district, but
just that we need to fix a few things in the business office, computer controls, etc.
Alex?
So I think if we have a recommendation from the superintendent, she wants to table it until we get back, and if there's an opportunity to at least table it to the 14th to see if we can get an extension, or to see if there's ability to approve it at another meeting before, and still comply with the deadline, we ought to at least try to do that.
So let me take a poll. How many members would be able to attend a meeting on November 13th, which is a Tuesday after a day off?
Well,
I can.
I can, but my question is, we're doing that to give the superintendent time to review it. Do we know if that's enough time for her to review it?
We do not.
Okay. Versus, do we wait till, if it's the 14th and it gives her 2 more days? I don't know if that's material or not, but.
Well, he said we can file it probably as late as, midnight on the 14th?
Right, but if we're
So-
meeting to approve it on Tuesday and she may not be able to look at it till Wednesday or Thursday, that's why I was asking.
Oh, okay.
That maybe, that's why, I can also meet on the 14th if those 2 days make a difference in terms of the ability of the superintendent to have reviewed it.
So who's available on the 14th?
I just would like to maybe see where we come out on whether we're even gonna table it or not, because that, the motion on the floor, and then
Correct.
if we want to, look at availability, we could probably do that offline, and I'll let you know which days we are available, and you can just find a quorum. You don't need to do that during this meeting.
Can I just weigh in? I attended the meeting also, the audit committee meeting. I thought that it seemed very thorough. I mean, we don't work in the thing, so we can't really tell, but in addition to what Susan was mentioning, I think it seemed like the biggest issue, other than that, was we apparently are allowed to get reimbursements from the state for our summer special needs program. And apparently we have not been doing that. So actually that's a issue in our favor, that's income if we file those forms correctly, income coming in. And the issue, we haven't apparently been filing those forms going back quite a few years, so it's quite a bit of money that could be receivable to the district. So that was the kind of thing that they were catching, which is good to see, I guess, but obviously we need to figure out how to correct that.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to table the acceptance of the report until when?
The motion on the table was to table it until December 3rd, but I would recommend that if there is the availability to have us do a special meeting to get a quorum. I'm with Alex, I would prefer that as our number one.
Okay, I will second that.
Can I just read the motion then as you have it? Motion to postpone accepting the audit committee report until the next available date, as recommended by Superintendent Katie Graves.
Perfect.
Wait, what does next available date mean?
We're gonna do that next.
We can figure that out.
If the motion specifies that we postpone it, but that we still get the report in on time, then, yeah, I would support that. If it's left vague, then I wouldn't support that.
I can make a next available date
Before November 14th.
Yes, and to ensure that it's filed by November 14th. You see what I'm
Before
saying?
November,
By
before
the due
midnight.
date, yeah. That it can be filed by.
End of day,
on time.
November 14th.
for the November 14th deadline.
And it is a
No.
win-win, give her time.
Yes.
by end
Yes.
of day
That's
of
the
November
deadline,
14th.
but that is the deadline, that's what you said.
Right, but I'm saying it's filed electronically, so we
Right, she said the
literally
deadline
file
of
it.
November 14th, that's what it means, by the end of day, is the same thing as the deadline.
Susan Schaefer.
And the only, we're doing this so that she's able to view it before we submit it. She can't make any changes to it, is that, she's just viewing it, correct?
I mean, it's
I don't
not-
know the
it's
answer to your
material
question.
information that she hasn't viewed yet to be filed with the state, I mean,
But did you communicate that she wants to view it because she may want to try to have it changed, or she just wants to review it before it's submitted, but knows that it will be submitted without her changes?
I don't think she has the authority to change it.
Well, but hold on, but there were things that were changed already on it, right? Because they get information and then you answer questions, so there might be something on here that she can explain.
I still think we're kind of off
But it's not
the
off
motion,
topic because,
because I just wanna get the motion, so is,
But it will
hold it, it's
impact
not
whether,
off topic.
it will impact whether it would get submitted on the by the deadline or not.
okay, well,
But we haven't spoken to her, you've spoken to her, so that's why I was asking, that's why I asked the question if you knew whether she wanted to review it, because she may wanna give input to potentially,
I think
Impact of
she will be
change.
able to review it by the 14th.
and there's no expectation that she will review it to potentially impact a change.
I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay.
But what I'm unclear about then is whether you're then trying to have a motion that doesn't allow her to make change. In other words, my understanding from watching the process was that sometimes there are questions, right, that are raised and the district provides information. So there may be information that she has, right, and so then something would be adjusted, right? Like there was something, there was an issue and they removed it from the
But
recommendations.
we won't know that until she reviews it.
I understand that, but what I'm also saying is I don't want to limit her ability to get it changed if there's something that she can answer or address.
And
You
I
see what I
think,
mean?
I think by pushing it to the 14th, if that turns out to not work, then we will have another, then we will, then it'll already be late, so we will just file it at the next meeting. Correct, Alex?
All we're talking about now, I think, is putting this off to the 14th. That keeps all our options open. One
Correct.
option is going to be to consider input from the superintendent and change our mind. Another option would be to get an extension. Another option might be that we don't get the input from the superintendent and we just go ahead and
But
move
we're
it
not
without
there
her. But I
yet, so
think
we'll figure that out on
if
the.
we just put this off to the 14th, we keep all those options open.
Correct, so the vote to table this, approval of the audit report until the end of the day on November 14th.
Is that gonna be, electronic, Victoria?
Yes. Should be coming up.
It bounced me out.
Chris, are you able to vote?
I voted already.
Okay, I'm gonna close the vote. It's unanimous.
Okay. Moving on to item
8.3.
Approve Catherine Barbara Graves contract extension.
Do we put in the purchase?
8.4 under mine.
Oh.
Okay,
It's
so,
under action items.
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the extension of the superintendent's contract.
thank you.
You're
Second.
welcome.
Who seconded?
I did.
All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the electronic vote.
No, it won't be electronic.
All right,
Oh, we just go on?
aye.
All in favor?
Yep.
Can I ask a
Unanimous.
question, don't, oh, I see.
Do
Never
you
mind.
want, do you have a different agenda than I?
I just reloaded it and an agenda item came off. The winter coaches, appointing them.
That's because, yeah, we tried to move that. That was the second.
Got it. No, I was
We had
gonna
a
ask
little-
where it was and then I just decided to leave the meeting and come back when I was gone.
We had a little bit of a.
If I keep doing
snafu.
that, maybe the meeting will get much better.
I have a completely different agenda from everyone else. I'm gonna, we're
Going to
we're
executive.
going into executive session at 7:49 PM.
That was awesome.
Can I get a motion to adjourn from executive session?
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Moving on to agenda item 8.3, motion to approve the contract extension of the superintendent.
So moved?
Second.
And what is that?
Hold on, discussion.
Is there any discussion?
Yes. I just wanted to go on record that my nay vote is not a reflection of the superintendent. I just feel it's reckless to be approving any superintendent's contract earlier than required. And the history in the district is that when that has happened, and it has happened in neighboring districts, it has cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. this district outlaid approximately $300,000 in cash and benefits, not that long ago, and so again, I just think it's reckless to do it prematurely. So it's based on that and not on the particular individual.
Alex?
In my view, the history in the district has been one of difficulty in attracting and keeping good people. I think we have a good person here now, who's got a good relationship with the rest of the administration, and I'm happy to support the extension.
Any other discussion? Okay.
Okay, you have a 4 yes and 3 no vote. So
Okay.
it passes.
Moving on to policy action. This evening, we had our code of conduct hearing, and we had a person speak. I assume board members have reviewed the code of conduct, and do we have any comments from members?
I had a couple comments. One was related to the, hold on, it's loading. So I just want to make sure I'm on the right one. This is the one that has the issue with gifts related to $75.
Correct.
Is that the one? Right. So I just had a question because I think we regularly violate that when we gather and give gifts to other board members. Right? Isn't that, do
No,
I
that's
have
the
the
code
right
of
thing?
ethics.
Or is that the, okay, my apologies.
The
then.
code of
That's why I
conduct
wanted to have
refers
it open
to
up. So I'm confusing
predominantly
the two.
students and penalties for behavior.
It's not opening.
Does anyone else have any comments with regards to the code of conduct? Alright, I'm gonna jump in here then, even though I'm supposed to go back. I think I've reviewed it pretty in-depth, and I have, just several typos and universal change issues along the lines of, instead of chairman, it should be chairperson. Things like references to deans should be stricken. There are a couple of confusing paragraphs that I think need to be addressed. Other than that, I'm really happy to see the addition of not only cyberbullying, but off-campus posting on social media. So hypothetically, you know, technically our students were not previously on notice that if they posted a photo of a gun, there could be some sort of ramifications, including suspension for at least a year according to the law. I think this policy does a very good job of notifying the students of what is and what is not acceptable. And I was also happy to see the incorporation of the Dignity for All Students Act into the Code of Conduct. I think that's very helpful.
Yeah, that was actually the game changer with regard to the administrative team being responsible for activities outside of school. So the Dignity for All Students Act, which was implemented, how long ago, Mr. Guinan, a couple of years ago?
6 years ago? 5,
Yeah.
6.
That was what required administrators to start to look into matters that transpired outside of school as long as they impacted the educational environment within the school building.
Yeah, I think that, that should bring us up to 2018. Any administrators have any comments?
I just want to say that I appreciate all the hard work that went into this, and I appreciated the red line version. It made it really easy to see the additions and subtractions, where that format was really nice. So, it's nice to have that.
Okay, any more comments? Then we will continue to work on this, and hopefully the code of conduct will be adopted at the next board meeting on December 3rd. And once that happens, I hope that we can kick off the new year with a full dissemination and reading of the conduct of the students and making sure they are actually aware of acceptable conduct. Moving on to committee reports. Do we have any committees to report tonight?
Yeah, we had tabled this from the last
On the
meeting.
last one, so there's a list if you open the content or look at the printed version. It spells out the ones that she had hoped to discuss tonight. Athletic committee, audit committee.
There's no attachment in our.
It's up here.
Should be under content.
Public content?
As far as the
athletic
content?
Oh,
As the
just
park
the slip,
goes, I
just
don't
the
know if
list.
everyone's been past the park, you could see that they're building, the construction's going on at Massanutten Park,
Oh, the playground.
the playground. Very exciting.
Audit committee, we basically, I think we're satisfied with an update from them.
The athletic committee met last week, Jeff's co-chair, do you want to?
Are you finished?
Yes, would you like to
Because that was the
give us
first
an
one on the
update
list.
on the athletic committee?
Sure. So the first meeting of the year took place, I believe it was last week, at which time the charter was reviewed with all those present. A couple of questions pertaining to the composition of the committee came up, and there were some decisions made on that. There was a discussion about some specific issues like the logo and where food and when food could be served at athletic contests, and I think that those issues were going to be discussed at future meetings. And some of that information was conveyed, I believe, in an addendum to the Wednesday letter to the board.
Right. I'm just gonna put it out here. I do have some concerns about the athletic committee. I don't know when it was created and under direction of the Board of Ed, but it is an ad hoc committee. And according to the rules and regulations from New York State, ad hoc committees are to be temporary and at the direction of the board. So I guess my question is, does the athletic committee wish to become a permanent standing committee? Because as of right now, there is no direction from the board for the athletic committee, is that correct?
That might be a good question for the next athletic committee meeting, for them to talk about it. Because many of the issues that come up are perennial, and semi-annual, and so.
Does anybody know when the athletic committee was created and for what purpose?
I know for what purpose, because I was on the board at the time. I came to it a year, but, but the purpose was that, I think there was twofold. One is that there were issues that come up in the community, that come up with parents, and I thought, and the feeling that, I don't want to speak for the athletic director, but I think we felt like with some issues, it'd be helpful to get input from the different constituencies so that it wasn't the athletic director always just making the decision on his own. And secondly, there were constituencies in the community, including very active parents. You know, athletics, is like, a stage parent. There's a lot of emotion around that sometimes, and so there were parents that wanted to be able to put input into different things, whether it be and I know we've got parents on the board who may have little kids, and so they may not be unaware of some of the events, but at the end of the school year, there's an award ceremony. So getting input on that, or on the direction of the program, or how certain things are handled, or, so there was a variety of things, but it was formed at a time when there was high energy and a lot of support for having different constituents participate. And many of those issues don't go away. They just, it's maybe a different flavor of the issue.
But, but according to the,
But it's ad hoc, so there's
it's ad hoc,
clarification, yeah.
so.
So it sounds like at the next meeting, they can say, does the committee think it should be permanent, or does it still think it should be ad hoc? And if so, what's the reason for doing it this year to communicate back to the board? Right?
Sounds good to me.
Moving forward to.
It has been at least 3 or 4 years. 5.
Out of the whole time I've been here.
This is a good year.
Yeah, because traditionally ad hoc committees are disbanded as soon as their direction has been reported to the board and their recommendations have been given. So, Transportation Committee, which I would hope that you will be disbanding soon.
Hey, now.
But do you have the report from the Transportation
Oh, there's a
Committee?
love letter.
I can update the board on that. The Transportation Committee met last week, and we focused on a review of the draft report that we were given by the consultant that we worked with as a school district, TAS. And specifically, we reviewed the recommendations that were noted in that draft report. Our next step is to either video conference or teleconference with the consultant, because the committee had some questions that we just wanted to follow up with him on, and then hopefully following that, we can be able to present the report to the board and answer any specific questions at that time.
Thank you. I skipped over the EFPC committee. Do we have any updates from them?
We met last week. We had 10 members attend. We have 2 new members that joined on, discussed the survey, which the survey concluded, I believe, on the 3rd. I know that Scott's working on tallying the results, and we'll reconvene. Our next meeting's December 3rd. We'll review the results and then present our recommendations to the board.
Great, thank you. Any updates from liaisons?
We still got a turn.
That was with regards to the park board?
Yes.
What about diversity inclusion committee?
Ms. Brando's not here.
She's not here, okay. In fact, I believe she's at Mrs. Price's event. Okay, so if that is it, I am going to move on to public input 2.
Items for discussion, can I just raise one thing?
Sure.
And I have to apologize for missing most of the meeting. I was watching my daughter in a volleyball game, which they fought very hard and came in second. I just wanted to note that in tonight's agenda, again, the board was asked to vote on 2 items to retroactively approve people who've been on board for quite a while. For instance, we approved the driving, whatchamacallit?
Driver ed and classroom instructor.
Right, and it's been over a month that he's been employed here and working with students, and we've been paying him, so I want to urge us as a board and a district to be much better about appointing people beforehand. We've had meetings since that person has started, and also with, there was another item that we approved tonight where it's retroactive for 3 months, and we've had 4 meetings since then. But we have to get much, much tighter about not employing and paying people until the position is approved by the board, unless it's an emergency, something happens, you have to hire someone tomorrow and the next meeting's in 2 weeks, but that's not the case. We've had many meetings, and we've just been, every meeting for the past 4 meetings, we've been retroactively approving people who've been on staff and paid. And in case the board didn't want to approve a position, usually approve positions, but in my 8+ years, there have been times that the board did not approve a position. How do we do that if they've been employed and paid for 3 months?
Right, I think we spoke about this at the audit committee meeting towards the end, and it was brought up that it needs to be addressed.
Okay, because it's just been 4 or 5 meetings in a row we've done this, and this is not
Right, the auditor suggests that is definitely an area that needs to be looked into and fixed. I believe he had said that if there is, a late appointment, it's possible we can hold off on paying and then retroactively pay them, but not to pay them until they're appointed.
Right, but that's not what this is. People were working for 3 months and being paid.
I agree.
Right, that's the point.
And that is included in the audit report as well. I'm gonna move into guidelines for public input. I'm sorry, public input 2. Is anyone here for public input 2? There is not. Then I am going to request a motion to convene into proposed executive session for the purpose of discussion with our school attorney, Mr. Vigliata.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? By hand?
Unanimous.
Okay, at this point, we will go into executive session at 8:19. And administrators, thank you for your time.
And we're all running out of the room.
Can I get a motion to adjourn from this business meeting?
So moved.
Second. Third.
You were third.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.